He helped a homeless man. 1 week later, everything changed, part 1. The ordinary morning. It was a cold Tuesday morning in downtown Seattle. The streets were wet from the rain the night before, and the sky still wore a dull gray tone. Ethan Miller, a 29-year-old marketing executive, was walking fast as always. Coffee in one hand, phone in the other, eyes half awake. He wasn't a bad person, just busy like most people. His world revolved around deadlines, meetings, and the never-ending buzz of his phone. At the corner of 5th and Pine, just outside the small cafe he visited every morning, sat a homeless man. He had a gray beard, tattered clothes, and a cardboard sign that read, "Just hungry." Not hopeless. Ethan glanced at him, like he did every day, and walked past. But that morning something stopped him. Maybe it was the rain. Maybe it was the sadness in the old man's eyes. He hesitated, turned around, and walked back. Part 2, the coffee and the smile. "Hey, you want a coffee?" Ethan asked awkwardly. The man looked up, surprised. Yeah, that'd be nice. Thank you." Ethan walked into the cafe, ordered his usual black coffee, and another one with a sandwich. When he came back out, the man was still sitting there looking down at his feet. "Here," Ethan said, handing him the cup. The man smiled. Not a weak smile, but a genuine one that reached his eyes. "Thank you, son." "Not many people stop." "What's your name?" Ethan asked. "Robert. Most people call me Rob." They talked for a few minutes. Rob had once been a mechanic. Lost his job, then his house, then his family. Ethan didn't know what to say. He just listened. When he left, Rob said something that would stay with him forever. You never know whose life you touch when you stop to care. Part 3. The week that changed everything for the rest of the week. Ethan couldn't stop thinking about Rob. Every morning he'd bring him coffee. Some days a muffin. Some days they just talked. He learned that Rob had been living on the streets for 3 years. He didn't drink. He didn't beg for money. He just sat quietly with his sign, hoping someone would see him. Ethan started wondering, how many people walked past him every day without seeing him at all? And how many Robs were out there invisible to the world? Part 4. The twist of fate. Exactly 1 week later, Ethan woke up late. He rushed through his morning routine, grabbed his keys, and ran out the door. When he reached the cafe, Rob wasn't there. The spot was empty. Just the rain hitting the sidewalk. Ethan looked around. No sign of him. Something in his chest tightened. He asked the barista, "Hey, do you know what happened to the homeless guy who used to sit here?" She smiled faintly. "Oh, you mean Rob?" "Yeah, he came in this morning. Said he got a job interview. Some guy noticed him last week, gave him a chance at his garage. He looked so happy." Ethan froze. He felt something warm inside. Pride, joy, disbelief. That one coffee, that one conversation, had started a chain reaction. Part 5. The return. A few days later, Ethan was sitting at the cafe scrolling through emails when someone tapped his shoulder. "Hey there." Stranger. Ethan turned. It was Rob, clean-shaven, wearing a simple jacket, a spark in his eyes. "Rob? Wow, you look amazing." Rob laughed. "Got the job. I'm back on my feet thanks to you." Ethan shook his head. "No, man, thanks to you. You did it," Rob smiled. "You gave me hope. That's all I needed." They sat together again, this time as friends, equals. People walked by, some smiling, some not noticing. But for them, the world had changed. Part 6, 1 week later. Everything changed again. A week after that meeting, Ethan came home to a letter in his mailbox. It was from Rob. "Ethan, I don't know how to thank you. Because of you, I got my life back. I've started volunteering at a local shelter. I see people who are where I once was, and I tell them about you, about how one man, one small act of kindness can change everything. You reminded me that kindness doesn't cost much, but it can mean everything." Ethan read the letter 3 times, tears welling in his eyes. He realized something profound that night. When you give kindness, it always finds its way back to you. Sometimes in ways you could never imagine. Part 7. The ripple months passed. Ethan's life changed too. He started a small social media page called Real Kind Stories, where he shared small acts of kindness he witnessed. The page exploded. Millions of views, thousands of comments. People from around the world began sharing their own stories. One act of kindness, a coffee for a homeless man, had become a movement. Part 8. The Legacy of Kindness. 1 year later, Ethan stood on stage at a charity gala telling Rob's story. He looked out at hundreds of faces, many with tears in their eyes. He ended his speech with the same words Rob once told him, "You never know whose life you touch when you stop to care." The audience stood and applauded, and somewhere, in the quiet corners of the city, someone bought coffee for another stranger because they had seen Ethan's story, and the ripple continued. Epilogue. A simple truth. In a world full of hurry, chaos, and noise, Ethan learned the simplest truth of all. Kindness doesn't need recognition. It doesn't need money. It just needs a heart willing to stop and care. Because sometimes, a $3 coffee can rebuild a life, and a little act can change everything. Moral of the story. One small act of kindness can spark a chain of miracles, not just for others, but for you too.